In the early 13th century, the world was beginning to tremble beneath the iron grip of a new force, the Mongol Empire. Under the leadership of Genghis Khan, the Mongols were advancing like a storm across Asia, carving out an empire that would stretch from the east to the west. Genghis Khan was not just a conqueror but a visionary, unifying disparate tribes and creating a military machine that was unparalleled in the world. His tactics were ruthless, his strategies brilliant, and his wrath was legendary. To the Mongols, nothing was sacred, and no empire was too powerful to fall. However, there was one empire that stood in defiance of the Mongols, an empire that, despite being surrounded by chaos and destruction, believed that it was untouchable. The Khwarezmian Empire, a prosperous and culturally rich state situated in Central Asia, held a false sense of superiority that would ultimately lead to its ruin. At the height of its power, the Khwarezmian Empire spanned modern-day Iran, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and parts of Kazakhstan, and its capital, Samarkand, was considered one of the greatest cities in the world. The Khwarezmians had long prided themselves on their sophisticated culture, advanced trade networks, and military prowess. They believed that their cities, full of magnificent architecture, brilliant scholars, and bustling markets, were too important to be overrun by any outside force, including the Mongols. The Khwarezmian rulers were known for their arrogance, and the Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad, who ruled the empire during this time, epitomized this arrogance. It was in this climate of pride that the fateful encounter with the Mongols began. Genghis Khan, who had set his sights on expanding his empire westward, sent a caravan to the Khwarezmian Empire to establish trade relations. The caravan, carrying precious goods, traveled from Mongolia through the harsh deserts to the bustling city of Otrar, one of the Khwarezmian Empire's vital cities. The Mongols, known for their strict discipline and honor in trade, expected their caravan to be welcomed as it was a symbol of peace. However, when the caravan arrived in Otrar, the governor of the city, suspicious of the Mongol traders, accused them of espionage. Without hesitation, he seized the caravan, and the traders were executed. This act was an insult that could not be overlooked by the Mongols, but the Khwarezmians were oblivious to the grave mistake they had just made. Instead of offering an apology or seeking a peaceful resolution, they dismissed the Mongol demands for justice, believing their empire was untouchable. They mocked the Mongol attempt to negotiate, fully confident that their wealth and power could shield them from any consequences. Genghis Khan, a man of great patience, but also relentless in his quest for vengeance, could not let such an insult slide. His empire was built on honor, and when that honor was violated, the consequences were severe. Instead of launching an immediate military campaign, Genghis Khan sent a diplomatic envoy to Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad, demanding the release of the seized traders and the execution of those responsible for the massacre. What happened next was the tipping point. The Shah, intoxicated by his own power, saw the Mongol request as nothing more than an act of weakness. He had heard of Genghis Khan's conquests, but he believed that the Mongols were nothing more than nomadic warriors who lacked the sophistication to challenge a great empire like his. In a fit of arrogance, the Shah dismissed the envoy and had the diplomats executed. He mocked Genghis Khan, calling him a barbarian from the steppe, and laughed at the idea that such a man could even hope to challenge his empire. The Shah was not just defiant, he was dismissive, ridiculing the Mongols' honor, culture, and very existence. This was the moment that sealed the Khwarezmian Empire's fate. The Mongols were not a people to be mocked or disrespected, and the Shah had made a grave error in judgment. Genghis Khan was not someone who would forgive such an insult. He was a leader who exacted vengeance swiftly and without mercy, and he was about to unleash his wrath upon the Khwarezmian Empire in a way that the world would never forget. The arrogance of the Khwarezmians, their belief that their wealth, Their cities and their strategic position could protect them from the Mongol storm would soon be shattered. Genghis Khan's response would be devastating, and the empire that mocked him would pay the ultimate price for its insolence. The Mongols, once seen as an insignificant threat by the Khwarezmians, would soon prove that no empire was beyond their reach and no insult was too great to avenge. The stage was set for a campaign of unprecedented destruction, one that would forever alter the fate of the Khwarezmian Empire and the course of history itself. The mocking of Genghis Khan had sealed the empire's fate, and the Mongols would show the world the cost of defying them. The winter of 1219 marked the beginning of the Khwarezmian Empire's nightmare. Genghis Khan, the man who had once been dismissed as a barbarian from the steppes, was about to show the world that no empire, no matter how powerful, was beyond his reach. The consequences for mocking the Mongols were about to unfold in a way that history would never forget. When Genghis Khan received word of the Shah's defiance, there was no hesitation. The Mongols were quick to act, and within months they began to move their forces westward, prepared for a war of unprecedented scale. The Mongol army, known for its speed, discipline, and sheer numbers, advanced with terrifying precision. They had already swept through the majority of Asia, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. And now the Khwarezmian Empire would feel their wrath. The first target of the Mongol invasion was Otrar, the city where the insult had first occurred. The Mongols surrounded the city, and for months they laid siege, cutting off supplies and starving the defenders. The inhabitants, who had once been so confident in their power, now found themselves trapped. As the months dragged on, desperation grew, and the defenders finally surrendered, but not before enduring unimaginable suffering. The Mongols entered Otrar, and Genghis Khan ordered that the city be completely destroyed. The men who had been responsible for the massacre of the Mongol traders were executed, but the punishment did not end there. Genghis Khan ensured that the city's population paid the ultimate price for their defiance, with many being slaughtered, and the city itself was reduced to rubble. But the Mongols did not stop there. Their eyes were set on Samarkand, the jewel of the Khwarezmian Empire. Known as one of the most beautiful and prosperous cities in the world, Samarkand was a symbol of the empire's glory. It was a city of culture, scholarship, and wealth, but to Genghis Khan it represented a defiant affront. If the Khwarezmians had mocked him, they would now witness his full wrath. Samarkand was heavily fortified, but the Mongols were masters of siege warfare. For weeks, they surrounded the city, launching relentless attacks on its walls. Using siege weapons, including the terrifying trebuchets, they breached the defenses and poured into the city. The battle that ensued was brutal, but the Mongol army was unstoppable. Samarkand, once a thriving metropolis, was turned into a wasteland. The Mongols did not just kill the soldiers, they slaughtered civilians, burned buildings, and reduced the city to ashes. The destruction was so complete that it would take centuries for Samarkand to regain its former glory, and even then, it would never be the same. But Genghis Khan's campaign was not just about taking cities. It was about making an example of those who dared to insult him. As the Mongols advanced further into the Khwarezmian heartland, they showed no mercy. Every city that resisted, from Bukhara to Urgench, was met with annihilation. The Mongols would not leave a stone standing. They massacred entire populations, and those who survived were often enslaved, used to rebuild the empire, or worse, sacrificed to demonstrate the price of defiance. The Khwarezmian ruler, Shah Ala ad-Din Muhammad, had believed that his empire's wealth and power could protect him from the Mongols. But as the Mongols advanced deeper into his territory, the Shah realized his mistake too late. He fled from city to city, unable to stop the unstoppable Mongol tide. In 1220, he took refuge in Nishapur, a city that had been spared from Mongol wrath, hoping that it would provide him safety. But Genghis Khan's forces, relentless as ever, followed him. The Shah, broken and desperate, died in Nishapur, far from his empire, far from his former glory. The man who had mocked Genghis Khan now lay dead in exile, his empire in ruins, his name forgotten. The devastation did not end with the Shah's death. The Mongols pressed on, seeking to wipe out any trace of the Khwarezmian Empire. The empire that had once mocked Genghis Khan's might was now a shadow of its former self. Its cities lay in ruins, its people scattered or enslaved, and its once great civilization was erased from the pages of history. The price for mocking the Mongols had been the complete annihilation of the Khwarezmian Empire. Today, the Khwarezmian Empire is a forgotten name, lost to time. What remains are the ruins of its great cities, Otrar, Samarkand, and Bukhara, testimonies to a once great civilization that dared to mock the Mongols and paid the ultimate price for its arrogance. The story of the Khwarezmians serves as a stark reminder of the cost of disrespecting those in power, especially when that power is wielded by a force as unstoppable as Genghis Khan. As the Mongols moved on to other lands, their empire continued to grow, and their legend spread across the world. The Khwarezmian Empire, on the other hand, became a footnote in history, an empire that had mocked the wrong people and had its civilization wiped out in the blink of an eye.